So we're in the middle of Advent season. In this season, in preparation for Christmas, we've been listening to the hope-filled words of the prophets. Isaiah's description of a peaceable kingdom where even the animals are vegetarian. A world where swords are turned into plowshares. Words that mean we too can hope for a time and a place where weapons are turned in and transformed into tools that will help to nourish and strengthen life. And then today, another prophet invites us to experience joy. Zephaniah says, "Sing aloud, O daughter Zion, rejoice with all your heart. The Lord is in your midst. You will fear disaster no more. On that day it will be said, do not fear. The Lord your God is in your midst, and God will rejoice over you with gladness and renew you in love, and will exalt over you with singing, with loud singing, with summer festival, shaky knees, midtown music kind of singing, with joy." And God promises, "I will deal with your oppressors at that time, and I will save the lame and gather the outcasts and change their shame into praise and renown in all the earth." Now, Zephaniah was not being unrealistic, or maybe he was. He lived in a time of political terrorism where fear must have colored everything. And yet, he ended his words to Israel with a song of pure joy. How is that possible? The prophet Isaiah does the same thing, hoping and trusting that the time is coming when the Creator will arbitrate for all people. The time is coming when nation will not lift up weapon against nation. A time is coming when the earth will be renewed, when the wilderness and the dry land will be glad, and the desert will rejoice and blossom, and the crocus will bloom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. Barbara Lundbad says that Isaiah dares to speak a word out of place, a word out of place, a word that refused to wait until after things improved. The prophets don't base their visions on the news of the day. We see and hear the data every night on the news, and add to that the data of our own lives, waiting for test results from the doctor, mourning the death of a loved one, wondering if we'll make it through the next round of layoffs. We all know the data too well, and we long for a word out of place. We need these words of hope now in the midst of our fears. For if we allow the fears to rule our lives, we will reveal that we have lost all trust in the God who does indeed love us, the God who reveals God's self in the midst of terror, acting in the world with deeds of love and justice and joy. So in this season, we celebrate the presence of God in a child. God in our midst, God in a moment of solidarity with all of humanity. We celebrate the intention of our Creator to bring healing into our broken world. Zechariah and Mary both hear the words, "Fear not, do not be afraid." Why? Because the Lord is in your midst. And God calls us to move beyond our fears, to make our choices out of the vision of a world that has moved beyond war to justice and joy. So we believe that everything is going to change, and everything is changing and will continue to change, because God is now enfolded into a human being, born into this world, who will live a life and live it and suffer the ways that we all suffer, and bring us back in resurrection hope. The joy of Christmas is all about trusting God's promise to redeem creation. For with the birth of this child, the course of human history is transformed and changed for the better. Things are still not as they should be. This much we are sure of. Yet we believe that God created the world to be a place of peace and love where life can flourish. And so on this day, we sing of joy, the joy that springs from hope, the hope for peace, the promise of a peace that will last. We share the joy of a God who is deeply invested in the life of this world, a God who sings and shouts and rejoices, and we who are God's beloved join this celebration. So let's continue to sing.